We are back for yet another round of Team Engineered Podcast. I am here with the wonderful Jade.
Hi.
It's morning time today instead of our normal afternoon slot, so we're on coffees today. Not too many coffees though, because as we've spoken about before, Kyle gets a little overexcited if he's had too many coffees, and it's not good for everyone else. It's amazing for Kyle; he gets heaps done.
Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. Jade on a few bulletproofs is also not great for everybody else. Apparently, she runs a lot faster, and her mouth talks faster than people can hear.
yes, and the words sort of blend all together.
It just blur. Yeah.
But we're not that many coffees into the day, and today we are talking about non-verbal communication, and probably more specifically is how you show up and how you present yourself. Now, this came from, I was listening to some, and I've just lost the name, but I was listening to, I was going to sound really, really smart as I said who it was, and Stephen McKenna. Paul McKenna, about how you carry yourself into a situation and how you carry yourself when things are going on is how your brain will react. So we already know that our brain is this really, really marvelous thing that A, we have control of, and B, does its own thing. But we've also got control over all the other stuff about how we sit and how we carry ourselves. And the bit that I really, really enjoyed was, when you've got to sort of say something that's bad, or you're reflecting on something that's bad, if you think about something that didn't quite go right in the world, if you're hunched over and, oh, geez, that presentation went really bad, everything drops, everything falls and everything, you feel down from it. Whereas if you go, that presentation was bad, why the hell am I smiling?
Well, this goes to the concept of smile when you dial, right?
Absolutely.
So answering the phone, this is a real example of how I used to teach my recruiters. It's like, Velocity Consulting, Jade speaking, versus Velocity Consulting, Jade speaking. And I actually didn't have to do anything to change. All I did was I sat up and I put a smile. Yep. But obviously the sitting up changes where your diaphragm is and where the sound comes from. But there is just, you can literally hear a smile in somebody's voice when they lift. And so I don't understand exactly why, but 100% it works.
And I think the important part to remember about all of that is, particularly when you enter a room or when you start a conversation, is that if you start hunched over, it's always going to be that way. If you start on, upright, stand up straight, like Mum always said, stand up straight.
Oh, hi, Mum.
But if we're carrying ourselves, then we immediately emit a much better vibe in the room, and it's more likely that people are going to lift and resonate with us rather than drop and resonate with us.
Well, this reminds me of, usually I'm standing up when we do our podcast, but we've been having a conversation, so I've been sitting on my stool. The power pose, the Wonder Woman power pose. So have you seen the Amy Cuddy's TED Talk?
Yes.
Right? The actual physiology of what this does before you need to do a presentation makes such a big difference to how you roll into the room, right? Because shoulders are back, chest is open, diaphragm is expanded, we're grounded in our feet, we're stable. Like all of these signals that are coming to our brain about this stance, like the Wonder Woman stance. So if you're listening, just imagine me standing here literally like Wonder Woman. I feel like I've got my Wonder Woman belt on today.
You've kind of got the Wonder Woman belt on. It just needs to be gold.
Yeah, I just need to dip it in gold. Yeah. I feel powerful in this belt, actually. Like, yeah, all right, take on the fucking world.
and so I think, just to harp on again, is that that's the stuff that we have control of. And although it sounds a bit funny that, standing up straight changes how you feel, it does, but it also changes how everyone else perceives you.
Yeah.
And that's super important.
Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking about there is like, if you are hunched over, right, you feel it sends a message to other people that you're either unconfident or closed off to feedback, like, because you're closing down, you feel you're small, and other people's brains are reading that instantly. And so just like, because usually if you're feeling more in control, you're willing to be open, you're willing to be out there, and you're instantly telling the other people that you're ready and you're energized and you're ready to do this, versus when you're crunched over. So I think it's so important that we really think about it before we enter a room. Like we've talked about doing the meeting maximizer to get our mindset ready, but really thinking about, okay, I'm going to enter a room. What's the first impression I want to give? What's the signal I want to send when I walk into that room? Oh, what was I watching the other day? I don't know what I was watching, but this goes to do with dating. I don't know if it was on a movie or I can't remember, but they were talking about like if someone walks into a restaurant or a bar and they're looking down at their phone and they kind of like, they look a bit timid and they're not sure where they're going, versus even when you're shitting yourself, getting yourself right outside, getting rid of the crutch, the phone, and squaring up and walking with purpose around the room, how much attraction. And the reason why I paid attention to that was I watched it just before I was going to a live networking event, and I hadn't been to a live networking event in God knows. And I literally was
Do those
shitting
things
myself.
still exist?
Yes. But this one was with a difference. We didn't stand there and do a little pitch or anything. We were literally real business owners, real ones, having dinner together and being introduced to each other from other people who knew each other.
Nice.
In real life.
In real life,
not like
without
a bunch of people without masks, but I mean, the people knew each other outside of work, outside of the networking event. So it wasn't a group of people coming together just with the purpose of networking who don't actually work together outside of work. They're real business people who interact and wanted to recommend or introduce like a proper connection. So because of that, I would think I was extra nervous, because I knew that there was actually like one of my friends was putting his reputation, basically. He was like, can you come? I want to introduce you to these 3 people. And I hadn't been into one of these events for a while. And so I knew I was also going to be coming late because I had a long day. And I said to him, I can't get there by that time. So there was a whole lot. And my default used to be like, look distracted on your phone so you don't have to make eye contact. And I was like, okay, that's not going to serve me. I'm going to fucking stride in there. It's like, hey, everyone, sorry I'm late, was on Zoom. And it's like, I think the difference that sent to people of the way I radiated were completely set the tone of how everything went from there on in.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's wanting to talk. Everyone's wanting to share.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that you carry yourself into that situation.
Yeah. Versus, yeah. So I think if we think about anytime we're walking into a physical room, what is that first impression? Because you only get one first impression, right? What is the message that you want to send whenever you're like, it can be you doing a meeting one-on-one with a team member, or a group team meeting, or for your guys walking into the training room. What message would it send? What message would it send if you've got all your students sitting in there waiting for the trainer, and the trainer walks in, head down, looking at his phone, looks up, kind of finds his way, goes back, gets a coffee, comes back. I was like, oh yeah, hey guys. What is that? What do you reckon that's
so often too?
Yeah. What do you reckon the students would feel then? What's the sort of story they're telling themselves, or what's the feeling they would be getting in that moment?
I reckon most people would be going, I'm not important.
Yep. This guy's not taking this shit seriously. He's just going through the motions.
Yep.
Like, so if he's not taking it seriously, why should I?
With a lot of our students, we're we've got boisterous, loud tradies coming into the classrooms, and if it's very, very easy to be beaten into your corner if you're not open enough. And that's not to say that they're all, I would say almost all of the tradies that come into our classes are open, boisterous, happy. They're generally in a good mood. They're not wanting you to fail. So if you just walk in open for them, you'll always have a much better day of training than if you walk in closed, because immediately they just go into, here we go, fresh meat.
I'm thinking about one of our clients and the way that their team leaders run huddles, and a lot of them are turning up as if the huddle is an inconvenience, even though it's a benefit of them to do the huddle to get the team to do what they need them to do, but they kind of feel put out that the team doesn't just do what they need them to do, and they have to do a huddle to make them do what they need to do. And they roll in, checking their Apple Watch, doing a million other things. Like they're kind of heavy with the stance, and it's kind of this energy of like the fuck off force field around them, right? And the I don't want to, like, it just screams, I don't want to be doing this right now. And like, so when they start those meetings, and that's the energy that comes, like those huddles or toolboxes, and then they get frustrated that people are fucking around or not paying attention, or they don't ask, like, why didn't you ask that question when we had the toolbox? Well, you had the fuck off force field up. I wasn't asking shit.
I wasn't game. And
no.
It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle as well, where your brain's telling you that I don't want to do this. And then because you've projected that to everyone else, they're giving it back. And so your brain's seeing that again, and you're into this spiral then of nowhere to go. Yeah.
So if we think about, say, team leaders running toolboxes or huddles, or trying to get their guys to do what they want to do, what's your tips for them to hack this situation?
Like your mother always said, stand up straight.
Yep. Shoulders back.
I guess it's putting the attention in first that needs to be put in. So, instead of rolling into, I've got to do this, and then, I'm going to do this, and I'm doing it. Okay, I get to do this. I get to connect with my team. Okay, that immediately I go, this is better. But give them that open, stand up straight, present yourself the way you want to present. And it might sound silly, but make sure your shirt's clean. Like if you're starting the day, look like you're starting the day, not finishing it. If you're and look, it's different in different scenarios, but like maybe the team leader should tuck his shirt in. Even if everyone else doesn't, and even if no one else expects you to, look the part.
It's positioning, right? So dress for the role that you want, and that doesn't mean about moving up the ranks. It's about if you want your role to be the one that is the leader, is in control, and has not authority in a bad sense, but they do look to you for guidance, then look like you're the person.
Yeah.
Like if it should be obvious. And I've always said this, it should be obvious when you walk into the room who's in control of that room.
Yep.
Not from an arrogant point of view. It's like they've got their shit together. They're the one carrying themselves. If I need something, I'm going to them.
Yep. And we've all seen that before too, like you walk into a meeting or a group setting, and you're trying to pick what's going on, and you naturally radiate to the person that is carrying themselves confidently. And I know I've done it before where I've picked out the wrong person that I should be talking to because they were carrying themselves, like the everyday workers were carrying themselves better than the supervisors and managers because whatever else was going on. And you naturally, like if you're trying to talk a pitch or a concept or an idea, you're naturally talking to the person that seems to be carrying themselves and that. And sometimes you should actually be talking to the person with the head down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, we read all these non-verbal cues and our brain starts to go, oh, if they've put in some more care about how they look, then, how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's kind of like what the brain starts to assign. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong and people should be judged on image or whatever. And it doesn't mean being full done up. It's just, it actually is just about the care factor.
Yeah.
Like, do you care? Like, are you shabby or are you on top of it? And do you look like you've acted with intent? Do you want to be here?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Oof. I feel like there's a song that goes with that.
We find that.
and it's so true though. Like when we're trying to communicate with our teams and when we're trying to, sometimes we've got to deliver things that might not necessarily be straightforward or may even be controversial. It's really, really important that we carry ourselves confidently and look like we have this, because you can try and fake the confidence. And if you're hunched over and faking confidence, no one's going to believe it. Whereas, if you're standing like you believe it and you've told yourself you believe it and your physiology is explaining that, then you're going to have much better outcomes with your teams.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm going to definitely recommend, we'll get a link in the podcast show notes to Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. Who did you say it was that you were listening
Paul
to?
McKenna.
Paul McKenna. Yeah. So we'll get that in as well. But what I think everyone that's listening right now should be doing is going, okay, what's the next situation I'm walking into? And how do I want myself to be perceived? What's the first message I want to send? Like, because we all judge the books by the cover. What's the first message I want received by the people that I'm interacting with? And what can I do to I want to say take control of that message, like rather than leave it to chance?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really, really important. And we've spoken before about paying attention to the little things and paying attention to how you feel in the way you're dressed and what you're wearing and how you're presenting yourself. An example I was thinking about as we were prepping for this, working in underground mining, we used to always wear a big belt and big shoulder straps and belt, and we had our battery for our light and tools and all the self-rescue, all the stuff, and it weighed, I don't know, so sometimes it would weigh between 20 and 30 kilos. And I used to, when I wasn't wearing it all the time, I noticed that when I put it on, I always felt like, oh fuck, I just don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But the straps and everything actually pulled that way and pulled the body into a position where you just naturally felt that way.
Yeah.
And I thought it was quite interesting reflecting on that as we're prepping for today, that, that was an example of the external environment making me feel that way.
Yeah.
And I had no idea about it until I sort of went, well, actually what it did is it pulled my shoulders down and it the diaphragm's compressed and now I just don't feel like it.
And what people don't understand is how much impact your diaphragm and the way you're breathing changes the chemicals in your body, that changes what's happening in your brain. And so when you are compressed and it's changing the way that you're breathing, it's literally changing the way the chemicals are acting within your body. And so it's not just it's a mental thing. There's actual science behind this, guys.
It's a physiological change in your blood and oxygen and everything else. Yeah, definitely. I was reading about how breathing through the nose and breathing properly into the diaphragm, how that helps things, as crazy as it sounds, it helps to fight off disease and all those sorts of things too. just through the chemicals that are created in that process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we talk about like the ability to like where you're breathing. So breathing, like if you are compressing, you're only breathing up in the top of our lungs is the anxiety breath. And we're not like, we're up in here when we're breathing down into the diaphragm, that full expansion is telling again that we're safe because we're able to take full breaths. So we're telling our system that we are okay. We probably need to do we'll do a whole nother podcast around the breath work side of things, I think.
Yep, definitely.
How you can hack your brain through breathing.
Which is very true, very true. So, but yeah, we probably should come back to where we started. So we were talking about our physiology, how that affects how we feel, which therefore affects how we project ourselves to our team. So really important that, you know, we set ourselves, stand up straight like Mum said. I can still hear those words ringing because it does set our brain into a much better, a better mindset, so to speak. And so the things that sit behind that for the nerdies,
yes, us the geekies. Oh my God, yesterday I'm literally in a spa, at a day spa yesterday, talking to my friend about, like, I've got my hand as a fist and I've got another one over it. I'm talking about how the neocortex, our logical thinking brain, comes offline and our hippocampus and our amygdala take over and shoot bad chemicals down our spine and takes our brain offline. And I'm like, my friends are going, you're such a dog.
Absolutely. So by setting ourselves and breathing properly, we're putting the right chemicals into our brain. We're settling our brain so that we're reducing things like stress. We're less likely to go into the fight or flight mode. So if we're, particularly if we're doing something contentious or super important to us, it's really important to get this message across, and it's really important to work through all of these things before we actually go into whatever that situation is. And it could be as simple as a team meeting to start the day, toolbox talk. It could be a peer review type meeting where maybe we've got to give bad feedback. There's no such thing as bad feedback, but negative type feedback. Or
growth feedback. Feedback for growth.
It could be that we're having a conversation with our kids or our kids' teachers or our family or whoever it is. And however it is that we want to bring into that, it all actually starts with how we hold ourselves first and then how the brain's going to work behind it.
Awesome. So I think there's some really tangible tools there that everyone can apply. And I just want you to think, guys, like, what's your action item from this? Like, just have the awareness, at least start with the awareness of when you're going into the next one. But now that you've heard this, I'm sure you're going to up level anyway.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Great to have you all with us again, everyone. Can't wait to see you on the next one.
We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.